Minerva, you just hit some just when you just said that. If I was an investor, which insurance should I not use? Which company should I not get a policy from?
I don't know if I get in trouble for this, but I'm going to say...
Look, I like smooth claims because I filed a claim before.
Yeah. But even binding, the worst feeling is binding a policy you closed and now you're in your home or you now bringing in your tenants and it's like, oh, we don't like this.
One of the questions I had on my list actually is, what's going on with all these insurance stuff? Like, what the heck is going on?
A lot of it is political too. And I don't do well in that space, and I can't articulate myself very well in that space, so I try not to.
Okay.
If I could sum it up into one word, it's going to be abuse. Everybody trying to get that piece of insurance money. I don't know if they didn't understand or they didn't care, but now everybody has to pay back for this.
Welcome to Real Estate Full Circle podcast. My name is Gene Garan. I am your host, your real estate investor, contractor, and also hard money broker. Today, we have a very, 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 very great friend and a guest that I do business with here with us today, which I've done business with her for going on more than 6 to 8 months now. And I wanted to bring her here to bring some value to you. I'm not going to do the full introduction of her. I'll let her give you all the introduction. But I want to bring Minerva of Numero Uno Insurance Company to kind of give you guys some value for your homes, for investments, and everything in real estate, because you're going to need insurance. So I want her to talk about it today, and she's going to give you the insight. We're going to have just a very candid conversation about everything in this space and bring you guys some value. So without further ado, Minerva, welcome.
Thank you so much, Gene. Thank you for having me here on your podcast for Full Circle. I'm excited. It's always fun working with you, trying to figure out what you're up to next, how we can collaborate and things like that. So I'm just really happy. Like he said, my name is Minerva. I'm Minerva Ferrer, owner of Numero Uno Insurance. I've been doing that for about 8 years now. And it's exciting. I know insurance is not an exciting topic for most people, but it's my area of expertise. So I enjoy it. I enjoy the in and outs. I enjoy being creative. I enjoy finding solutions. And ultimately, I just love helping people.
Okay, so let's kind of walk the people through it. How did you kind of get started in this business?
Oh, goodness. Let me take you guys back just a little bit. So my background truly was in banking for 15 years. That's what I did. I wore multiple hats through that time span, and it was great. I loved it. So
why'd you start this?
Because something called burnout.
Okay.
Yeah. So it got to a point where our visions weren't aligning, right? Yeah, so the vision that the bank kind of had and the vision that I kind of saw for the area that I worked in weren't really on the same page. And that started getting very tiresome, right? It's like I see all this potential and I can't convince them to see what I'm seeing, And then you start to feel like, man, I'm fighting harder for them and this is theirs, right? So the idea of having to find something else, finding where can I take my talents? Like, I know I still got all this passion, this burn, this fire. So I'm not ready to be like, a branch manager that just sits there another 20 years collecting the check. Like, I can't do that. That's not me.
So you have some entrepreneurship in you.
Yes. Well, not necessarily. I really just wanted to know what industry to go to. Like, I prayed on this a lot for like the last 2 years of that 15-year span in banking. And one day my husband came home and he's like, hey, I think I figured it out. I think I know what's the next step. So I'm excited. And then he tells me insurance. Now, mind you, my husband's a financial advisor, and I'm always just teasing him like, oh, I can do what you do. And he would look at me. He's like, no, you can't. He's like, this is really, really rough, really hard. You got to follow up. You got to bother people. You got to convince people that they need something that they don't necessarily want to pay for, but they agree that they need, right? So he's like, you're not really cut out for that. He's like, so then I stop and I'm like, well, then why insurance? He's like, not insurance in the capacity of like a financial advisor, but in the capacity of like property and casualty, which is called P&C. Okay. Obviously, I don't know what P&C is at this moment.
Okay.
So I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, like home insurance, auto insurance, commercial insurance. And like almost immediately, the light bulb just went on. It was just like, oh, so like checking, savings, loans, like that's how I translated it in my mind. And I'm like, okay, so it's going to be all the skill sets that I've acquired, right? I'm still going to be able to apply everything that I learned when I got my business degree from UCF. Like, it just seemed like such a perfect transition. Okay. So then it was like, okay, what's next? Okay, we got this idea. All of a sudden I'm like, yeah, this is great. I'm going to go and open up an insurance agency. Not that easy at all. You got to get licensed. You got to get companies to allow you to sell their products.
Yep.
You know, and they want people to sell their products that have experience. I didn't have any yet. Okay. So I had to go and find someone to teach me the business.
Ooh, you hit on something really big in our industry,
Yes.
but I'm gonna come back to that
Yes.
one.
I had to find, like, for my industry to get in at the level that I wanted to start, I wanted to be a business owner right away. I didn't want to be an agent and then kind of work my way through. I didn't want it that way. I already done that. I already done that part. When I was in banking, I was ready. If I'm going to make this leap, it's going to be a leap, right? So the mentorship was like a necessity. Like, I couldn't do it no way. There was no company that was going to allow me. Progressive wasn't going to allow me to sell their products. American Integrity, Universal, none of those people. I said, oh, I've never sold a policy before, but can I sell your product?
Okay, so
no.
So what it sounds like, you had to go somewhere to get counsel, to get structure, to get processes, to get knowledge base. Because what they teach you get the license may not be what's 100% practical in the real world, what you're accomplishing. It's more so like the laws, the governing, what you got to do. It's the same thing in real estate. But I'm going to let you finish because the coaching part is, I want to come back 100%, to that.
100%. It's all the things that you don't learn when you get your license, right? You need someone to have to tell, hey, don't go this way. That's a roadblock, right? Don't hit this brick wall that I hit. You don't need to do that. Save you time, save you heartache.
If you had to put a figure amount on that, how much value you think that was presented to you, that person that coached you through that whole process?
Oh, it's a real cost. It's a real cost. And I still think it's probably not enough for what has been given to me, you know? But I mean, just to start that was like $10,000 before the first day of learning.
Yep. So what you're saying is you got to invest in yourself.
Oh, 100%. And I knew if I was going to double down on anyone, it was going to be me.
I agree 100%.
You know?
So you got all this information, and then how did we get to Numero Uno? Like, it's such a catchy thing. And I've heard you say the story before, but people are probably watching, like, how do we even get to that?
Yeah. So at first, I was coming up with all your normal, you know, Ferrer Insurance Agency, you know, all the typical things that, you know, initials, you know, J&M and this and that. And of course, my husband would not let me do that because he is very, very creative and very outside the box. So
Joe is.
Yes.
Definitely.
So almost in a moment, it was just like Numero Uno. He's like, I think you really should call it Numero Uno, because from the beginning, we had to identify a void, right? Like, what is an area that we could fill? Because there's insurance agencies everywhere.
That's true.
Right? What is going to set us apart? What is going to be different about my agency than the next shopping center and across the street? And my husband was like, right away, he's like, you're Latina, right? You're fluent. And there's a whole Hispanic market that is probably being underserved, and they need to have a place where they can go. So that kind of brings us to the name of Numero Uno, because it's in Spanish. It's saying, hey, we're number one. We're the number one choice. We're the number one agency. And it's just something about that is catchy enough. But even deeper than that.
Okay, let's get into
even
it.
deeper than that.
I feel like
I am the firstborn in my family, which makes me my grandmother's first granddaughter.
Okay.
And I was always kind of a little jealous of my sister because she was very clingy with my grandmother. And my grandmother would always look at me and say, Minnie, don't worry about it. You numero uno. You numero uno. You're number one. And I grew up with this. We're going to talk about when you're putting, what are those words of affirmation in your children. And not just in this, guys, but literally that has kind of made me feel that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it well to a numero uno level. Like that is what I'm striving to, because it's been put in my head.
That's a tagline.
It's been put in my head to be at a level of great, right? Okay. So it all just lined up, guys. I don't know how to say it besides I serve an amazing God that has just really aligned so many things in my life that I can never deny. So everything just kind of fell into place.
So that's really the blessing in it, that you have people around you to help guide you and navigate throughout this whole thing.
And not being afraid to ask for help.
That's
and
one of the
saying,
biggest things.
I'm having a hard time. This is very challenging for me. I don't have that creative naming space ability. Like, can you help me? I've never been afraid to say I can't do something or I don't know something. Let me call you back. Let me figure it out.
They say the best person to be in business is always to be a student and remain humble. That's how you kind of grow in this business space. Mm-hmm. I love the name. I think the marketing is just good. I think your story is something that resonates with everybody. As far as growing up, you figure out exactly who you want to target. Same thing with me in real estate. I figured out I really ideally work with investors a lot. People want to buy their rental properties. So you figure out that that's the hardest thing, trying to serve everybody, but you can't.
It's our natural instinct too.
Yeah, it's like, I want to please everybody, but that's not, you want to figure out where you want to be, and then stay in that lane.
Yes.
Once you figure out, commit to stay in that lane. And then not let anyone, just rail you off, throw you off a railroad because they're doing something else that's popping. That's not the case. Yeah. So in our space, you're an essential, you're a necessity. I don't even lend money without insurance. Nothing gets done without insurance. Mm-hmm. Down to contractors, builder's risk, vacant policies, that's such a thing. So one of the things I really want to kind of just ask you about is, because you're not just an insurance person, you actually invest too, you and your husband. Mm-hmm. So what are the things that maybe a new investor should know when dealing, let's say they're buying a rental property or they're doing a fix and flip? Can you kind of give them a little bit of insight into that?
The first thing is cost, right? Okay. Understanding as much as possible. I mean, there's always little things that are going to come up. Okay. Never should be insurance, because that is not a little thing, and it's costly, and it's right off the top. Right? This is a hard cost. But I'm going to say my biggest advice for any investor is to understand what that is before you're signing any contracts. At the moment that you find that property, or you have an idea of building, what is it going to cost, right? Do I need a builder's risk? Do I need a vacant, right? Do I need a renovation policy? What is my long-term plan?
Can you kind of I want to pause, for me, I need to get better understanding of this too. When I'm fixing flipping, am I doing a vacant? Because I've seen vacants or renovation per se.
Yes.
So what does that really mean? So somebody who's fixing flipping, because a lot of my audience are either going to do rentals or fix and flip.
Fix and flip's always going to need, for the most part, if it's truly vacant, because we get some situations where it's a duplex and one side is not, and it gets a little tricky. Obviously, we have solutions for all of those things, but it does get tricky that way. But
I didn't even just think about that just now.
Yes. Which for an investor, they think, oh my gosh, this is great. I have money coming in. I'm fixing one side. When this lease is up, then I'm going to jump, right? Yes, for the investor, that sounds amazing. For the insurance company, not so much, because there's different level of exposures there mixed into one. They don't like that, and it gets very, very challenging. But to answer the question, for flippers, most of the time they're doing a true vacant. Okay. Right? It's completely no one lives there, no one is occupying it, and then they're doing renovations, right? Cosmetic.
Correct.
There's no structural walls coming down, so that is going to be a vacant with renovations. So the renovation is an endorsement. It's an add-on, right? Because you have properties that are just vacant. Hey, this is a great deal. I'm going to grab this right now, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm just going to let it sit for about another year. I'm wrapping up some other projects right now. Then that's a true vacant. Nothing else needs to be added.
So you have wraps, because I know for lending, we have wraps too when we're brokering deals. So that's like an add-on to it. So that add-on, I'm assuming, brings the cost up.
100%, yeah. Okay. But it brings the protection up too, right? Because it's not just empty, where now they just want to know, hey, are the doors locked? Are they coming to, check on the property often? No, you have construction going on. So yes, the cost comes up, but you're protecting yourself from liability.
Okay. And I think that's a crucial thing. Like, for example, one of my properties I'm flipping now, and I probably got to do a better job. Like, I had to go get the police report, but somebody stole the whole AC unit from that project. Yeah. And thank God we had insurance on it, the right insurance. I think some people don't have the right insurance. Can you kind of break down, like, what is the right insurance for a fix and flip and a rental property? Like, if it was your property, you're fix and flipping, what is the ideal policy that you would prefer them to do?
If I was doing a fix and flip for myself,
what policy would you get?
I would do, and we're fixing and everything. It's a vacant with innovation.
Which company would you go with?
Oh, great question.
Because if I got to file a claim, I want to deal with the right company.
Yes. So, first of all, it's understanding the policy itself, not necessarily who the company is. Because at the end of the day,
that's an educational moment for me. Good.
At the end of the day, what matters is what's black and white.
That's true.
Right? That's what's going to hold in court. That's what's going to hold in a claim situation. Right? It's what's written on paper. So that's what we're mostly always concerned with, not necessarily the company. It's send me your jacket, send me your deck page, let me review it, let me see.
That's why you always actually send that stuff to you.
Always, because we want to know, first of all, where you at and where we're trying to take you. Do we need to make improvements? Do we need to point out some things that might be on there that you don't need no more? Like, it's a true conversation.
So for you, what would you get? Like, let's say you're doing that. So is it
depends on the time frame, right?
6 months.
I'm going to probably just do a simple Lloyd's policy because I could do 6 months. I could choose the terms. I could choose 1 month, 3 months, right? But now, obviously, you can't go straight to those companies. There's like another middle company that's called like a mega agency. They're called MGAs. That's what we use to get access to them. You understand?
You have to be plugged up.
So that's why sometimes you'll see
in regular terms, right?
Yeah. You have to have access. But I would do a short term if that project is only going to take me 6 months. And honestly, we know, investors, you guys know, flippers, you guys know, right? You think it's 3 months and it ends up being 4, 5, 6, right?
Yeah,
so we also look at that from a cost, right? Because sometimes it might be cheaper to go that 6 month, that 9 month policy, go a little longer and ask for a refund than to run out and then have to call me back now and say, Minerva, I need to extend that policy another month because that 1 month might be the half of the 6.
So there's
these are conversations that gotta happen so that we could package it right.
I'm glad you said package it right. When I first started, I used to get a lot of policies and I used to pay the whole thing. And I was done in 6 months, but there was no refund at the 6 months. For me, it was just a waste of time. It was a lot of things I just didn't really know. I just want to say, hey, I always ask, I want the policy. If somebody steals my appliances, somebody breaks my window,
vandalism.
And if anything happens, I want to be able to get my money back or file a claim. Or if a storm comes and I already replaced the roof, I want to make sure I'm covered. That's all I used to ask for.
And you know to ask. Most don't even know to do that.
Man,
right?
when you do a lot of renovations, man, sometimes you gotta. And I've had people break into properties before, broken the windows. Some of the stuff, it's not worth filing a claim. But if you come in there, you take 3,000, 4,000 of appliances, you break a window, you damage the property when you're taking the appliances out, and I have $10,000 for damages, I'm filing the claim at that point.
For sure.
So I just need to make sure that I'm protecting myself at the same time. So in essence, what flippers need to be made aware of, the policies that are not refundable and fundable, because
so we call them fully earned. Right.
So fully earned, so they can't get, so the 12 months you already paid, you can't get nothing back.
If the next day you're done, no refund.
Now you said something that we talked about before when we got policies before. Hey, you might want to just do the 6 months, or if you package it something different, using that I can get some of that money back.
Right. So some policies all have what's called a minimum like 25%.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That's what you said.
So it's like 3 months. It's usually what it equates to. Fees are usually fully earned anyway. So you're not going to get those in most cases. Okay. But you could get the remaining of the unused premium portion. So when you guys are looking at your binders and your deck page and you're seeing all these numbers stacking, that's what it's breaking down. Some of those fees, and then it's always the top number, the premium total, that is the prorated after they hold back 25%. So in most cases, matter of fact, just this week, we have a client, he's buying a property, but he's going to be done with that property in 30 days, right? So obviously, as an insurance agent that's been doing this for a while, when I hear 30 days, in my mind, I'm immediately thinking 90 days.
Correct. I agree.
Right? Just to be on the safe side. I am going to recommend to that client at least a 3-month policy. Even if I have to sell them, like in this particular case with this client, we had to sell them a 12-month policy because that was the lender's requirement. Mm-hmm. So even though he already expressed to us that the project was going to be 30 days, we are more leaning that it's going to be 90 days from experience. The lender is like, hey, we hear you, but we need a 12-month policy. Right. So in that particular case, we sold him a policy that has a 25% minimum, which gives us that 3 month. Right.
And the rest he can get back.
And then the rest he can get back when he is done. But if something happens, and we know things happen, and he has to go 4 or 5 months, he is locked into that rate from when he closed, and not having to now buy another add-on at a later time when we know rates are just continuing to go up. You know, so it's just really, it's just conversation. Like,
and that's one of the things I like about you too. You talk to people. You're like, hey, what's going on?
And I'm nosy too, right? Because I'm an investor, so I want to know.
I think that's a necessity, right? Because how can you protect me if I don't tell you everything, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that when I'm brokering loans and I tell someone, hey, you're going to fix and flip this property in 6 months, you need to stick to the 6-month terms we're going to give you, because if you tell me 12 months, your insurance goes up. And sometimes their points go up because they're extending the loan out for 12 months.
Man, yeah.
So I typically tell them, like, hey, are you sure? If you're sure you're going to be able to done with this in 3 months, you have 2 months on the market, maybe another month as a filler, it might be best for you to do that 6 months policy and do the 6-month term on the loan, because as soon as you open up 12 months, everything else changes a little bit. And sometimes they don't look at that. I'm like, hey, you need to look at all your costs.
Yes.
Like, you need to look at all
the costs, all the refundable costs, you know, it's critical for the bottom line, you know. So I'm always going to say they need to be concerned, like, and really have those conversations and explain the project. Explain it, like tell the agent, this is my plan. And that agent should be able to ask additional questions, you know?
So I'm going to ask you a good question here. If I was an investor, which insurance should I not use? Which company should I not get a policy from?
Oh, goodness.
Okay, let's just say, what company you don't really advise clients too much about?
I don't know if I get in trouble for this, but
okay,
I'm very honest. No. I'm an honest person, and I cannot nothing can happen. But I'm going to say mutually, right? From feedback from our clients, and feedback from my staff. Citizens is probably one of the companies that we don't like to work with, but they're like the necessity, right? They're like Walmart. You don't really want to go there, but sometimes you have to. And that's exactly how we feel with this particular company. So we're going to try everything to give the client another option that we feel, from customer service, from getting things resolved, that it's going to be a smoother process, right? When there's a claim, it's going to be a smoother process, right?
That's what I like smooth claims, because I filed a claim before.
Yeah. But even binding, you know, the worst feeling is binding a policy you closed, and now you're in your home, or you now bringing in your tenants, and it's like, oh, we don't like this, and we don't like the next thing. And you're thinking, I was done. I thought when I signed my application, Minerva, and paid
they can come back and change the terms.
They can change what they don't like, and you have to fix it, or now they're going to cancel your policy.
Oh my gosh. Do I get a refund back?
Sometimes you get a prorated.
I don't like the way you just said that sometimes. Because if I'm binding and you cancel me, I need my money back. Yeah,
it'll be, in some cases it's prorated.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll flat cancel. If it's something like they really didn't like, they'll make it like they never even wrote the policy. Like it didn't even exist.
So that means I don't have no coverage from the time
they'll backdate it. Yeah.
Oh,
but then that's a problem with your mortgage company, right? Because you told them.
Now they force an insurance on you, which is a higher.
So for lots of reasons that we don't like to work with them.
So this is why I need
but
to
there
talk
are
to Minerva.
times where we just don't have a choice, you know, including myself. I mean, I have a property that I have insured with them, because again, as an investor, I have to be concerned with the bottom line.
That's
you know,
true.
And I've been a homeowner since I'm 18 years old, right? And I'm in my 40s, and I've never had to put a claim in all that time for any property that I've ever had.
Guys, she's married.
So
her husband.
So what happens is I have to take that into consideration too, right? What is the likelihood? And for the cost difference, am I willing to bat with this company a little bit if I had to? I gotta weigh out everything, you know?
But see, sometimes when you're like in investment space, you have so much other things that you're thinking about. Tenants, repairs, screening, little small things. Sometimes that's why you need somebody in your corner to really be on the lookout for you.
100%.
And that's why I think I refer
and that
people,
knows what's happening in the industry, like when to pull you out, right?
I'm glad you just said that. One of the things that, one of the questions I had on my list actually is, what's going on with all these insurance stuff? Like, everybody's prices are up. What the heck is going on? Like, can you just give us a little bit of like
if I could sum it up, because a lot of it is political too. And I don't do well in that space, and I can't articulate myself very well in that space, so I try not to.
Okay.
But if I could sum it up into one word, it's going to be abuse, right? From all angles. Okay. And sadly, when any company is being faced with abuse, right, then everybody has to pay for it, right? So if you have a store and people are stealing all day long, blah, 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 well, guess what's going to happen to all the merchandise? It's going to go up. Now they have to pay for more people to come and secure, more camera system. And that's kind of what's happened to the insurance industry. Some companies have been able to survive it, and some companies have not. So you guys have heard we've lost many companies to the state of Florida, or companies that just don't even want to insure us. All of a sudden, and it's because of claims, losses, right? A lot are fraudulent. A lot is just, everybody trying to get that piece of insurance money. I don't know if they didn't understand or they didn't care, but now everybody has to pay back for this.
Yeah.
And it's just a really, really sad situation.
It's a tough pill.
It is. It's horrible.
On one of my properties, it went up so much, it cut my cash flow by $100 a month.
It's horrible.
So I lost $1,200 in cash flow.
It's horrible because, for us, what we're constantly hearing, and myself, right? Like I just told you, all the years that I've been a home owner or a property owner, I've never had a claim. Not once have I ever had a claim.
I've had 2.
And I'm still subject to the same expense like everybody else, the same increases like everybody else. And it's not fair. And we have to hear this from our clients every day. Minerva, if I've had little things, I fixed it. Like, they're pleading to me and my hands are tied. It's probably the area of my industry that is just the most challenging, is talking to the client that has done everything right, and they're still now getting hit with a $5,000 home premium, on a fixed income.
Oof.
Exactly.
So I want to segue to this.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
It's getting better.
Good.
It is getting better. So we are seeing like numbers starting to make a little bit more sense. We're starting to see carriers opening up again because we need competition, right? Because if every company doesn't want it right and you only have one or two, naturally supply and demand, we all know that, and that affects. But we are seeing things getting better. We got to be paying attention to these policies, because a lot of things are changing. They're not the same as they used to be. Same policy,
so things are being added and subtracted.
Yes, sir. Okay. And so having somebody that's going to be honest and tell you, hey, you used to have it like this, but I just want to make sure now it's limited here, and the roof is going to be depreciated like this on this policy. But just someone that is going to be transparent and educate you.
Okay, so I want to segue to this piece for homeowners, because everyone wants the American dream. Everyone wants to own a home. My counsel is buy a home you can afford to sustain, because inflation is real. Pricing is going up is real. Kids
living below your means. Yeah, that idea.
I try to frame it a little different, but sometimes people don't understand that, because property taxes do go up. Insurance is part of that. And this past year, that was like the subject of conversation, like for homeowners.
All over the news.
Getting dropped left and right. And you're talking about people whose house has a small little thing. You're like, they're dropping for this?
Yeah, for nothing. Sometimes it's just location, right? We just don't want to insure in this area right now because we've had losses. You haven't caused a loss, but collectively, there's probably been an issue, and now everybody's getting affected. Or we can't write new business in that area because it's a restricted area, like our own Orange County, Seminole, Lake, and it's been challenging. So
then my question to you then becomes, is it best for me to go to a company that specializes in just one, like let's say I'm a State Farm agent, or is it best to go to a broker?
I'm probably gonna sound a little biased, but even if I wasn't insurance, I'm a broker, right? I'm gonna say, why wouldn't you go where there's options, right?
I like the same slice of cake every time.
No, you don't. I know him. No, he doesn't. But no, you want options, right? Especially in this situation that we're in. One size does not fit all.
That's true.
At all. I have people, oh, my daughter, she's paying this. Where your daughter lives, oh, in Jacksonville. It's not the same.
That's true.
Right? It's not the same at all. I'm having a challenge right now with a client down south, trying to understand why his, I think it's a little under 2,000 square feet home is like $8,000. And that was the best rate. And I mean, all the way up to like 15,000, 16,000, Whoa. And then he's like, I'm just going to keep my first place. Okay. Could you go find out what it is? And then he calls me back. They're like charging me $10,000. So then you just have to stop and say, look, maybe you need to ask your neighbor across the street next door to see what because sometimes we're like delivering bad news on our own and they haven't heard it nowhere else. And we have to encourage them. Like, you need to go find out and ask. Like, we have no problem telling you, call another agency.
I like
because
that.
The rates are the rates.
I like that transparency because realistically, most people don't look at that because what ends up happening is they're just there in one bubble. Oh, I didn't shop around. I didn't find out what was taking place. I shop my insurance every 1 or 2 years. I don't stay with the same company. I learned that because one year I was like, man. And then I learned that was bad too. So one time I shopped around and what I was getting was better than what I was shopping around for. And reconfirmed that where I was at was a safe place.
We love to review policies for that same reason. We would never take a client from something good because it's just we go to the next call, right? We don't have like this culture of like buying every call that comes. It's do the right thing and then everything will come, right? That's been my philosophy since the beginning of time, since I started our agency. It's like, if you do the right thing, it's always gonna make its way back. Maybe not today, but it will. And it has, or sometimes they just love the honesty and then they go and refer their neighbor and their coworker and we actually have a solution for them, so we always just want to review and get that second opinion.
I think that's crucial. I think for investors, you need to look at your own policies and review them. That's one of the things that we don't check. I actually put a task on my calendar at the end of the year, like around December. It's like, hey, go review your policies. Just send it, just shop it around, see what they send to you, see what they tell you, because I know my property taxes might went up. And sometimes you can't really control the rent sometimes because everything else is going up around you. And if you don't raise the rent, you start losing money. Then it doesn't make sense for you to even be a property, have rental properties at that point. So you have to watch your numbers because if you're not watching your numbers, you're not watching your money. If you're not watching your money, somebody's spending it. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
So what are some pro tips for anyone who, for the homeowner that's buying a house? What are pro tips that they need to know about when they're actually buying a house before they come to you?
Yes. Oh, before they come to us. Because typically we're educating them on what they needed to do because sometimes they don't know. And even we find out even. So I'll back it up a little bit, right? So in our office, we love to educate our realtors. Like anytime I have a new friend getting in the real estate space, right away I reach out to them. I'm like, hey, let's have a one-on-one. I'm going to show you a deck page. I'm going to break it down. I'm going to take you through the whole process so that you can understand. And then I also bring in my banking background into that because I already know what's going to happen at the lending table as well and what they're looking for. So we always want to talk to them as much as we can, right? But if I was saying something to the homeowner, I'm going to say, number one, you got to do an inspection.
Thank you.
If your home is
let's pause right there. Sometimes I gotta say this. Sometimes they're like, I just want to do the regular inspection. Like, yo, you have to get a 4-point.
Yeah. If the home is over 20 years old, and we have some companies that it's really not until 30, but for the extra $50 or whatever, we always gonna recommend it.
I just say it's good for the roof, for the piping. You don't know what somebody did. Yeah. Like, I always recommend that.
And the insurance companies want it now,
So you might
might want to know before you start signing documents, if this home is going to need a new roof, if the electrical is one that is acceptable by insurance companies. You don't know how many times we have to
especially the aluminum wire.
Oh my goodness. Federal
cloth wire, they don't mess with that.
No. And that's additional expense that can be used for negotiating, right? Trying to leverage that with the seller and saying, look, I'm going to have a challenge getting insurance.
Minerva, you just hit some just when you just said that. So when we're trying to close, and then the seller don't have the money to fix it right there, but they want to leave some money in escrow to fix it.
I already know where you're going.
So how does that work out?
So we do have some companies, very few, that will give you about 30 days to get these things done. If we have a contract, we have some proof. Like, they'll work with us, right? Especially when you have an agency that has a great relationship with the carrier, okay? These are things that matter. So when people are like, oh, I'm just going to keep shopping around, blah, blah, blah. Well, if that agency doesn't really have good working relationship with these carriers,
they don't hold weight.
Right. When something goes wrong, that's really how we get measured. You need to be where they're going to be able to solve problems, right? And go back to the carrier and say, listen, this is a situation that we're running into, but the seller is going to put this money in escrow for them, right? Or aside for them, or as part of their closing deal. Here's a roofing contract. The roof is going to get done in like 2 weeks after they move, whatever the case is.
We're actually doing one right now, actually.
And what they'll do a lot of times is we could get a policy where they'll exclude coverage for the roof, right? Until we are now able to prove that the roof has been completely replaced with another great, beautiful wind mitt inspection. You know, sometimes we don't even have to do that. Maybe just permit. It just depends what we are able to. I don't want to say the word negotiate, but you kind of are negotiating with that underwriter and kind of like holding them to what the arrangement is. Right. So it's like, okay, now once it's done, what do you need from us? Right? Making sure that we are clear. If it was just a permit number and pictures and maybe a paid invoice, that's enough. Or do they need another wind mat? Is that going to be enough? Like, really being stern with what do we need to do to make sure that we could preserve this policy and not have any issues.
I've had some headaches with that. Closing table. And one of the things I tell flippers is like, hey, when you're flipping a property, you have to account for these things because you can't just go into a property and make it all beautified and you're not thinking about the cloth wire that's in there. You're not thinking about the aluminum wire that's in there. You're not thinking about the 15-year-old roof that when it's time for them to...
The water heaters, the HVACs.
All this stuff. So you have to really think about that because when you're trying to resell back on the market, how is that going to play out for you? Because you've put 20% down when you bought it. You've paid maybe 4, 5, 6 months of interest payment to hold it. You've paid for insurance premiums. You've paid for contractors to do the work. And now you have to go back to the table and credit a buyer because you overlook these small little things, which are not even small because you deem it small because you're just getting the industry and you don't see the value of putting a whole new electrical. Sometimes you can get a whole rewire done for a feasible price in your budget.
Oh, for sure.
If you're really looking at it. A roof too.
Yeah.
I would rather just put carpet and compromise, not having LVP flooring and be able to make the statement of new roof, new electrical, new HVAC, all these things instead of
showing the value and savings over time, right? Because every year that roof credits are going to be applied again, and it's just going to help them save money. Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay,
that's where they want to put the money in.
What I'm thinking right now is in this space, insurance is a key component. I know you mentioned that before. You got to have like a circle of people, and you know me, I want everything to be full circle. Kind of tell me about how you structure yours because because I do it the same way, but sometimes it's good hearing from somebody else.
Yes. I'm gonna say you're as good as the people that surround you, right? The people on your team. So for like when I'm thinking about myself as an investor or myself as an insurance agent, is who is in my sandbox, right? Who am I playing with? And we make things happen, right? So for an investor, I'm gonna say a great CPA, someone that you could call, right? You know them by name. You might know them from church. You need that person in your back pocket, especially when you're aggressively investing or lending or acquiring or whatever the case is. You're on an aggressive path. You need to have a good CPA.
All right.
That knows their tax laws, all the important stuff. Okay. I'm gonna say you need to have a good lender. right? A resource of finding money. You're going to need a good inspector, an inspector that is looking out for you, but also understands what insurance companies are concerned with. Because sometimes insurance are concerned with things that as a buyer and investor, it might not look like a big deal to you, right? But the inspector's gonna be like, hey, you need to move this trampoline ASAP. All these bricks laid out in the back, y'all gonna have to get that out of the way because that's gonna cause you a problem. Someone that really understands both sides. I said lender, CPA, inspector. If you need somebody to do your pictures of your property, you just gotta align yourself with other people that's their expertise.
You forget Numero Uno.
An amazing.
Look,
to me, that's a given. That's
like,
just a given.
It's a given, but you want to tell people, right? So I had an incident. I don't know. He might me share this. I had a friend of mine's. He called me in a frantic panic because he was being dropped. I won't say his name, and I was like, "Oh, I got accustomed to calling you when I had fireballs.
Yeah,
which is why I used to do fire here.
Yes,
but I got accustomed to that, right? And Minerva was like, oh, that's no problem. So I'm like, Minerva, my friend got this issue. And I was like, she's like, oh, I could take care of that. One thing about me, if you tell me you got a problem, I'm doing a 3-way phone call right on the spot. Yes,
I love that.
I'm like, oh, we're doing a joint text right now. Let's get it done. There's no tomorrow. We get it done right now.
Right now.
So Minerva gets on the phone and she's like, oh, don't worry about that. Man, that guy took me out, got me a nice steak. He's like, oh my gosh, man, you saved me. I was like, I didn't say, I just connected you with Minerva. I think now he uses you for everything.
Everything. Because I know exactly who you're talking about. But it's so funny how you say people come to you with like fires and then you call. We have always done great in that space. Because one of the things that sets us apart, and I say this boldly, we don't accept no.
That's why you Numero Uno.
We don't accept, we can't do this. Why not? How can we make it happen? What can we endorse? What can we take off? I am relentless. I don't like the word no, because in my mind, there's always a way. There's always a way.
That just speaks to your mentality.
Yeah, and I'm gonna find it the challenge. I'm gonna embrace it. So we gravitate. It comes to us. Like even my team, they're like, why do we always get all these challenges? I'm like, because we do well in that space, and it serves us well. Because we've been able to grow our business. You always get on me whenever you need to do more marketing and more posting, blah blah blah. And I tell people all the time, I've literally grown my book of business by word of mouth.
You could double that if you did.
I know.
You would double your business doing that.
I know, and I am going to start soon.
Before we go, what makes Numero Uno? I know you said you shared a lot. If you had to sum it up and just a quick couple sentences, like what makes Numero Uno just different in general? I know why I refer you, but I'm
gonna say, I know it's gonna be a little cliche, but we love people.
That's why you go to a church that says follow. Never mind.
Yeah, at the end of the day, when I think about my staff and how they handle people, there's just a natural love there.
I think it's from the top though, some leadership.
Yeah, I believe in that, so I love on them, right? So then they naturally can reflect that back to our clients, Okay. So I'm constantly pouring and then being the example, of how I want my clients to be treated, how I want them to be responded to. And then I always tell my staff, I'm constantly always reminding them, if it was your mom, if it was your sister, how would you do it? How would you recommend it? Would you just tell them you didn't have something? Because that's unacceptable. Right? You're not gonna. Where are you gonna send her? You got to figure it out. You got to find a solution.
So you're really like, there's no. You have to find a solution.
No, you have to. So that's really your strong point. There is, when I tell you, there's no one that could ever say, we call Numero Uno, and they said they couldn't do anything. That they didn't align us, that they didn't point us, that they didn't call. Like we just had one just this week. We ended up having to call another agency because he had a different company that we don't have that would have been a great fit, and it worked out perfect.
Wow.
So it's having those partnerships too that you can respect each other mutually. But again, I think you get what you give up.
Okay. I think we need to just do that right there. Look, this was a good conversation because I think that you need insurance. Literally, you do. You need people in your corner that you can work with. I love the fact I can call you and be like, hey, I got this problem, or I got this scenario. How does this look like? Hey, what's my exposure with this if I do this insurance this way? And if I buy this property, what does this look like for me? And I think that investors don't look at this. And my whole perspective is, hey, how do I bring you value to make sure that in your corner, in your sandbox, in your terms, who do you have in there and who you playing with? Because at the end of the day, if you're not, it won't come full circle. You'll have it halfway, and then you'll have to go in somebody else's circle and make sure you build that relationship in order for them to help you. So I think that being in this business is about meeting people, making sure they're genuine, dealing with them in a fair way and respectful way. I think your company really exemplifies that, because that's why I'm like, hey, you can call Minerva. Because I think she's going to fix the problem. And if she doesn't fix the problem, I can do a handoff to you and it doesn't come back to me.
Thank you.
Like, when you can do handoffs, it doesn't come back. Yeah. That says a lot.
We want them to keep coming. I always say that. We want them to keep coming. So, and we want to make you look good. Like, that's true. We always say that about all of our referral sources. How do we make that relationship?
Make me look good. So
absolutely. No, I mean, I think it goes both ways. The same way that you're saying, hey, this is my person, right?
That's true.
We're like, oh my gosh, Gene, he's amazing. You know, I'm so happy that he sent you over here. We got you. We're gonna take care of you.
That.
And then they're thinking like, man, Gene his circle is amazing.
That's
full.
That's my whole thing of my business is how do I make it full circle. And I try to build relationships that add so much value. Or if I don't have it, I go out and find it. So we'll cut it here. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Minerva brought so much value, and I think it was good. This is a good. Wait till you guys see what comes out of this. And if you're looking for a company and you're looking for insurance as an investor, or you're looking just for your house, just reach out to her. You just never know what you can do because she don't like saying no. Well, on that note, thank you, Minerva. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gene,
and this
so
is
much.
A wrap.
This
see you guys
was
in the next
amazing.
one.
Thank you, guys.